Habari, unaendelea vizuri kabisa. Yeah, thank you very much, Pastor Minor. Thank you very much, and the entire team of the Family Group Foundation, Kennedy, Japheth, Jerry, the entire team of the Benevolent Bright Stars, the farmers who are here today, the youth who are here today, and the entire community of the Gagumo, and everyone who is here today. It's a great pleasure for me to be here, and I see this is more a discussion that we're having. It's not a speech. It's a discussion, and I'm going to build on what Japheth said, what Kennedy said, and what Pastor Minor have said. So they've already made my life quite very easy, and I'm going to build on that. What we know is that the reality is that what the scriptures tell us is a house that is divided cannot stand, but a united house can stand. They say in Swahili, umoja ni nguvu. Umoja ni nguvu is actually the message of the discussion that we're going to have today, because for the mind to change, it must be not only about an individual, it must be about us. Umoja ni nguvu is unity, is strength. And for that unity, it should be for us to do things together. And the issues and the challenges of food insecurity or post-harvest losses cannot be solved by one person. Because we know that a bird that flies from the ground into an anthill is still on the ground. So a bird takes off and then lands on an anthill, it's still on the ground. What that means is that this is an African proverb. It speaks only to one thing, that we need passion. It speaks to one thing, that we need to have purpose. It speaks to one thing, that we need motivation. And more importantly, we need to be ambitious. We need to be ambitious. Ambition to earn more and improve the quality of our lives, using what we have within our reach, and firstly, using ourselves to do so. And this is what each and every one of us, not only here in Kagomo, but across the entire country and across the entire African continent, each and every one of us should do. And I'll tell you the reasons for that. And I think I'll just repeat what colleagues have already said. Africa doesn't lack anything. Africa have everything. But Africa have everything, but also lacks everything. It's funny. We have the sun you can see outside, 365 days of sunshine every year. We have the land. Yes, Africa have 65% of uncultivated arable land. The land is here. Because I'm going to make this discussion quite very relatable. I'll try to see how I can really break it to really make it relatable for us here. But though we have the land, we produce Africa actually produces enough food to feed everyone. Even right here in Kenya, you produces enough food to feed everybody. Even right here in Kirinyaga, where a staple is rice that you produce, where it's cassava, you produce enough to feed everybody. But the problem is that what you produce gets lost in the form of what is called post-harvest losses because of lack of preservation techniques. But that is not rocket science. We can be able to provide those solutions. Kenya is losing up to 500 million US dollars every year. That's 50 billion Kenyan shillings every year because of inefficiency, because of lack of value addition to what is produced. That means if you are to reverse these losses in rice because of lack of storage, because of lack of effective and quality drying, because of lack of ensuring that it's not affected by aflatoxin, we could actually reverse these losses and create income opportunities that can be able to feed many people, that can be able to help create more incomes, that can be able to send our kids to school, that can make sure that people can afford to live in better housing, that they can be able to afford better medical care and have more money in their pockets. This is not rocket science. It can be done, and we will do it. We will do it because it's been done elsewhere. It is not rocket science, and it is not witchcraft. And I'll give examples of why I'm saying this. My coming here today with a team and in collaboration with the Benevolent Bright Stars and the Family Group Foundation and all of you here today is to support you in taking the right steps. And that right step have already started here today. This is the beginning of how we are going to change things. The right step, we have started this process today, and with the entire team of the Benevolent Bright Stars, regardless of who you are, it doesn't matter. I have always said this and I'll repeat it again. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter where you were born. It doesn't matter which family you associate with. It doesn't matter who you are or how old you are. It doesn't matter. I have said this and I will say it again. Youthfulness is not age. Youthfulness is ideas. Youthfulness is ideas, and those ideas is how we can use them to make people's lives better. That is what youthfulness is about. So it doesn't matter how old you are, we are ready to support you. But just as one cannot force a horse to drink water, success will depend largely on your own personal initiative to get ready to be supported. It will depend on your personal initiative. It will depend on your dedication. It will depend on your own commitment. And it will depend on how ready you are to be able to work together. As I started off, I said Omuja Nguvu is our principle. It's our motto. And therefore, we must then be able, as we move forward, knowing that youthfulness is ideas, and knowing that we can work together collaboratively to address the food insecurity challenges, the first thing we must be able to do is to shun selfishness and work selflessly towards taking steps that can be able to provide solutions for each and every one of us. As Benevolent Bright Stars, this name benevolence is important. And I see Benevolent Bright Stars as having the matching orders, having provided all with the matching orders, because which we must be able to embrace. The word benevolence means kindness. The word benevolence means compassion. It means selflessness. And knowing that it means selflessness and compassion, and we need ourselves to be able to take the initial first step, because you have the support. It will depend on how ready each and every one of us are here. Whether you're a youth, because as I said, 20 years ago, I was 20 years old. Youth is not static. Youthfulness is not static. It's dynamic. Your relevancy is not in how young or how old you are. It's in what you can do with yourself. And because it is what you can do with yourself, it depends very, very much on you as an individual first to be ready to give yourself, to be guided so that you can use yourself, because you have everything you need inside you. Because the biggest school you have is not the schools you go out there to, from primary school to high school. The biggest school you have is the mind. The biggest school you have is the mind. And so it will depend on how ready you are to be guided to produce the solutions. For example, like solar dryers that can be able to help you dry rice, or can dry cassava, or can dry millet. We will provide you with that support, because we are partnering with the teams, Benevolent, Bright Stars, and Family Group Foundation, and all of you here. You must not be able to have an organization to partner. You yourself, you are already an organization. So it will depend on how ready you are and how ready the farmers are to collaborate in using these solutions in the form of solar dryers to preserve and add value to what is harvested, be it cassava, millet, rice, or any other product. So the first initial step starts with you. Readiness, selflessness, kindness, compassion, all these elements there in us. All we need is to accept that we can work together for the common good, to solve a challenge that we see each and every day. It will depend on you to collaborate with each and everyone so that we can also be able to ensure that what you produce and it is processed and value is added using these climate action initiatives can also be marketed. Not only to markets in Kirinyaga here, but even across the country and even across the entire continent. We will guide you every step of the way. And to the youth, from today, know that youthfulness is ideas. And youthfulness is not urge. And youthfulness is at heart. That youthfulness is selflessness. You, the youth, knowing that youthfulness is ideas, will be trained free of charge in fabricating dryers and be guided in marketing your efforts. All we call upon each and every one of you is to embrace selflessness and dedication. All we call upon each and every one of you is to ensure that you take the guidance that we'll be able to give you in pulling together your efforts, and we will guide on how you can also be able to leverage on what you have in the spirit of what we call innovative volunteerism. And to increase your chances of success, we will need to start off with the food crops that you depend on, with rice, with cassava. And let me just focus a little bit on cassava. I know that this cassava talk sometimes doesn't really carry a lot of water in the continent. But cassava is Africa's gold. Gold is not just what is underneath the ground. Cassava is Africa's forgotten gold. But I think you can be able to show the example starting right here, because I say cassava is Africa's gold. It is the only crop that can be processed into over 300 products. No other crop in this continent can be able to do that. Whether you're processing it to cassava bread, or to cassava flour, or to cassava cake, or to cassava beer, and the list goes on. Even cassava peelings can be turned to briquettes, which can be used for cooking, efficient cooking. Even cassava leaves, they're nutritious. This crop is Africa's magic crop, but sometimes it is abandoned. And this crop is very, very important because, as I said, it can be processed to over 300 products, including delicious, ready-to-eat snacks that you can sell to markets and individual consumers across the entire country and even across the entire country and continent. In addition, even during harsh weather, you already know this, with less water and increased temperatures, cassava is the only crop where losses are lowest, just 8% compared to 20% and more for other food crops like maize. Other farmers across Kenya who have embraced cassava and use improved nature-based approaches that take better care of the soil has increased their yields by over 30%. So this crop is Africa's magic. This crop, what we need to do is how do we add value to this crop? That will create opportunities. And this, what you're going to do here, could also be replicated to other parts of the country and the continent. But doing this calls for one word: selflessness. Doing this calls for one word: selflessness, kindness, collaborative work. We cannot do it alone. No matter how intelligent you are, no matter how many ideas you have, you cannot do it alone. We need one another. We need one another. We cannot do anything unless we leverage on this spirit of selflessness and shun hatred. We leverage on this spirit of kindness and shun individualism. We shun jealousy and selfishness. Other countries have proven that this is the way to go. And this is not rocket science. I'm not speaking to you here today to tell you something that you don't know. But my coming here today is to reinforce the logic in which we are driving through this spirit of innovative volunteerism that is premised on selflessness. But because other countries across the world have done it, why are we in African continent not doing it? We are living in denial. And today I think that together we can be able to move forward and refuse that denial. Just to give you an example, today we all enjoy these Samsung phones that we see. We see Samsung fridges. You can name the rest. These products are made in South Korea. South Korea, the giant in this electronic, did not get this to this overnight. They work hard. There was a time where South Korea was even poorer than many African countries, including Kenya. South Korea that we keep talking about today, that is even giving aid to this continent. This was in the 1960s. In 1963, South Korea was a beneficiary of food aid and money from this very country called Kenya and other African countries. But fast forward to today, this country has an economy that is many times the size of many African countries combined. 15 times the size of many African countries combined. And how did they do this? In the 60s, when they were supported with aid from African countries, South Korea never had anything. But what did they do? They didn't use magic or they didn't use juju. They used logic. They didn't use magic. They used logic, not magic. And how did they do it? They build the focus on the skills of their people. They build the skills of their people around what they had as a comparative advantage, because you can only leverage on your comparative strength. If you are producing rice, if you are producing cassava, that is your stable. It means that if you can be able to leverage that as your comparative strength and close the gaps of the challenges you are facing, everybody will be lifted from the bottom of the pyramid. And that's what we will do, and that's what we must do. South Korea, as I said, leverage on the strength of their people. Just as we are discussing here today to prioritize the value chain to reverse the post-harvest losses and to add value to cassava and make many products, South Korea, driven by this ambition, they leverage also on selflessness and kindness and collaborative work and skilled their people. They focus on adding value to silk to make textile. And this is how they increase earnings from their farmers. Those who were producing silk, they trained their youth, their workforce, so that they were not only producing, but they were adding value and turning that into textile and started exporting that. That's how South Korea became a giant. South Korea doesn't have minerals. It doesn't even have a population, half of even the population of the continent. They did not use magic, they used logic. And the logic is simple. Collaborative work premise on selflessness. And doing so in such a way that we train people, we skill people, we inspire people. Because inspiration is very important. An inspired human being can do anything. But for that human being to be inspired, we must also be able to be realistic to make it clear that each and every one of us is important regardless of where we come from. It doesn't matter where you come from. What matters is what you can offer. What matters is what you can offer. But what we should know is that with that selflessness, we cannot make any progress. And I'll keep using this word selflessness because when you are selfless, you are driven by purpose to solve a problem, not only for yourself, but to benefit others, and in the course of benefiting others, you benefit from it. This is quite very important. Without selflessness, we cannot make any progress. We live at a time, and let's be realistic, we live at a time where many of us doubt everything. We do not believe even in ourselves. We doubt everything, even up to the point that we doubt ourselves. We even doubt our abilities to do anything. And this is not new, because throughout centuries, what we have learned is that there were times that men and women who took time and the first step to do something were rebuked, were refused. You cannot do it. You cannot do it. Anytime you come up with an idea, people say you cannot do it. You come up with an idea, people say you cannot do it. But what inspired these men and women during those times was that despite the fact that they came up with ideas and were continuously refused that they cannot do it, they took the first step and they were armed only with that idea and a common vision, a vision to provide solutions that were beneficial to everyone. Their goals were different. But the only thing they had in common was that the step they took was first. The route was new, and the vision was unborrowed. I believe that the common vision here is, how do we create opportunities in the agro value chain? How do we ensure that the post-harvest losses in rice, in cassava, in millet can be reversed? How can we be able to have the preservation techniques? That is our common interest. And if that is our common interest, then it means that we are united in spirit to be able to provide solutions that will benefit each and everyone. Because that is our common interest. And that is an unborrowed vision, because no one can take it away from you, because you know where you want to go. These men and women, the response they got, despite the fact that they had a vision, an idea to change lives, the response they got from the public was hatred and jealousy. So when you get that today, it is not new. It has existed before. They got the response of hatred and jealousy. But these great creators, these great thinkers, artists, scientists, the inventors, they stood alone against the men of the time who never wanted to believe in anything they say. Everything great new was opposed. Even the development of an aircraft was opposed. The great invention was denounced. The airplane was considered impossible. Anesthesia that is used in medical hospitals today was considered sinful. But these men of these unborrowed ideas and vision went ahead, despite hatred, despite jealousy, to do what was right, and what was right not only for themselves, but to help them solve problems that were affecting people. They fought, they suffered, and they paid the price of hatred and jealousy. Despite all this hatred, they endured and they became victorious, because they stood for what was right, and what was right was selflessness, to do something that can benefit others. So we are standing here today as one people, believing that we must be able to reverse the challenges that the agro value chain is facing, which is to reverse the post-harvest losses. Regardless of whether we are supported with the idea or not, it is the right thing for each and every one of us to do, because it will create jobs for the youth. It will reverse post-harvest losses, and you can be able to have more opportunities and put more incomes in your pocket. This is what is called innovative volunteerism. It is a spirit of selflessness. It is a spirit of selflessness, and it is what we should all stand for. That together we can be able to do more. Umoja ni nguvu. That together we can create common solutions for the common good of each and everyone. That together we can make a difference in others' lives and those of others. But this must start from a changed mindset. Must start from a changed mindset. Changing from personal benefit to problem solving. Changing from thinking only about personal benefit to devising solutions to challenges, because the challenges we face are disguised opportunities. It is only when you have a challenge that you can be able to devise a solution. And those challenges are with us today. So we should not focus on challenges, we should focus on solutions. We spend a lot of time talking about problems. Let's start talking about solutions, because those problems, we know them. And those solutions, let's not just talk about them, let's start to do it. That is why we are here today. That's why we are here today. And I will leave you with 4 key points on how we can be able to do this. And the first point is, we must be selfless. If you are not selfless, you cannot position yourself. Each and every one of us seated here today have a skill. You have a talent. God is no respecter of persons. Each and every one of us is endowed with certain capacity, certain inherent ability of skills, of talent, regardless of where you come from. It doesn't matter. We are already endowed with what we need. All we need is to accept that we have it and then start to retool it. Each and every one of us here, regardless of age, as I told you today, there is nothing like age. It's ideas. Youthfulness is ideas. So if you are 90 years old, you have an idea, you are a youth. If you are 20 years or 15 years old, you don't like ideas, you don't generate ideas, you are not a youth. Youthfulness is ideas. So as I said, each and every one of us here have skills, talents, intake that we can all be able to leverage on it. But we must match our skills and talents against the challenges that we're facing today, establish gaps, either in new skills and partnerships that we need to solve the challenges, and apply these solutions to address these challenges we face today. I talked about solar dryers. And these solar dryers are not complicated or sophisticated. These are simple solutions that if you can be able to get youth, to train youth, to fabricate these solar dryers right at the doorsteps of Kagomo here, down to carry the entire Kirinyaga, you'll be creating opportunities for the youth. You'll be solving the problem the farmers are facing. Producing your vegetables and they get spoiled because you cannot be able to dry them. Producing rice and you take 3-4 days to dry it when it can be dried in 1 hour. These solutions do exist. But through the spirit of innovative volunteerism, leveraging on your skills and talents, you'll be able then to be guided, because we know that if you are able to power different levels of agro-value addition, starting with cassava, for example, we can turn the losses into incomes, into enterprises. You can create jobs. You can even start leasing these solar dryers to other farmers and they'll be making money, but they'll be solving a food problem. The farmer can then be able to sell the dried cassava or dried rice with high quality at a higher price. This is not rocket science. This is happening across the continent, and it will happen here. It will happen here. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, just as Prophet Nehemiah in the book of Nehemiah, chapter 3, verse 1 to 2 to 32, he needed people of different skills, of diverse skills and expertise, working selflessly and continuously and harmoniously to rebuild the broken walls of Jerusalem. This is what we should be able to do, to be able to reverse those post-harvest losses and create opportunities. But this requires selflessness. It requires us to avail ourselves, because your biggest ability is your availability. So avail yourselves. When they say, let's come and hear a discussion on how we can take it forward, show up. When you show up as you are here today, know that you are the chosen one. You are the chosen one. So clap for yourself. But for us to be able to move forward, from the farmers to the youth who are here today, you will need to be trained to become these actors, clean energy actors, solar dryers actors, marketers, and even financiers. And this requires working together in a selfless way to turn this opportunity into tangible benefit. And that takes me to my second point. No matter what you do, you must be able to ensure that you become competitive. No matter what you do, being competitive is important. We are in a continent with 1.2 billion people. What will make you relevant is not the fact that you were born in Kirinyaga, or you were born in Cameroon where I was born, or you were born in Nairobi. It doesn't matter. What will make you relevant or stand out in the crowded space of ideas, it will be your skill. It is your skill. And your skill in doing what is important and what is touching others' life. That's the only thing that makes a difference. It's not because you're a Kenyan or I'm a Cameroonian or someone is from Togo. It doesn't mean anything. It is what you as that individual can offer. That's the only thing that makes a difference. When all is said and done, the question that will be asked is, what did he do? And what did he do not for himself but for others? And that takes me to my third point. Shun hatred and division in all its form. Shun hatred and division in all its form. We cannot solve these problems when we hate one another. In this continent, we hate one another so much. 1 John chapter 3 verse 15 tells us that hatred of fellow human being is equivalent to murder. In this book of 1 John, it makes very clear that hatred of a fellow human being is equivalent to murder. Every time you hate, you are guilty of murder. While scriptures admonishes us in Mark chapter 3 verse 25, that a house divided cannot stand. Hatred which manifests itself across this continent, spectacularly through what is called in this continent tribalism, has divided and weakened the African continent, and that is why we are where we are still today. A continent that have 365 days of sunshine, 65% of arable uncultivated land, still have people going to bed without food. We don't lack anything. All we need is a mindset change that if we engage one another towards a common vision, to add value to what we produce, to leverage on other skills, to allow others to train us, and to fabricate the solar dryers where we can be able to engage farmers to use them, our problems will be solved not in a year, not in months, even in weeks. We'll be able to do that. And we can do it, and we will do it. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, as I said, if we are able to combine our unique skills, because each and every one of us is unique. Some of you will be interested in fabricating solar dryers. Yes, you'll be given that skill. If we combine our skills, our unique skills, we can be able to drive a better Africa. Because I say this because hatred has divided the continent. And this hatred is a sin which is equivalent to murder, has caused many years of development, and it is time for us to put an end to it. And that is the essence of innovative volunteerism, of selflessness. And those who are going to put an end to it will be you and me. Will be you and me. Anytime you feel inclined to discriminate, just be reminded that scriptures calls us not to do it. And pray hard and disassociate yourself from such inward inclination. And always see the good in each and every one. And that takes me to my fourth point, and the last point. We must become leaders. Leadership is not only about political position. You do not need to have a position to be a leader. Each and every one of us here is a leader. Leadership is personal responsibility. You do not need to have a position to be a leader or work in an organization to be a leader. Leadership is personal responsibility. You do not need to have a title to be a leader. And you do not need to have a title to change the world. It doesn't matter. The world can only be changed by your example and not by your opinion. Because I say this because we complain a lot in this continent, right? And I believe it's the same here. Complaining is not a strategy. When it is raining, we complain. When it is sunny, we complain. What do we want? What do we want? When we provide solutions, people don't show up. You call a meeting, people don't show up. Then they complain. It's raining, we need the water. It's not harvested. We complain after the rain has stopped. It is sunny, we need to harvest the sun through solar dryers and the solar panels to light houses. We don't. We complain. Complaining is not a strategy. It's costed this continent so much, and we should stop it. Leadership is taking responsibility to do the right thing. And the first person you must lead is yourself. The first person to lead, and this is where I never really get it. People say, oh, our leaders are not doing this, our leaders are... Yes, of course, but you are also a leader. What are you doing to yourself? What are you doing to yourself? If you cannot lead yourself, then don't complain about others. That leadership starts with you and me. You must lead yourself. Lead yourself to make the right decision. Lead yourself to say that I will banish hatred and replace it with love. To say that you banish selfishness and replace it with selflessness. To say that you banish jealousy and replace it with contentment. To say that you banish revenge and pray for your enemies. And banish laziness for diligent hard work. And as you take these actions of personal leadership, don't bother about the naysayers, what others will say about you. If you don't do anything anyway, they will say something. So why bother? You do a haircut, they complain. You wear yellow, they complain. You wear green, they complain. Why bother? Don't bother. Just do what is right. Those who ridicule you, instead, don't complain, don't bother. Pray for them and continue doing what is right. And inspire others to do right. And always know that no one is ever too young to lead. Yeah, because I hear sometimes young people saying, no, our leaders are not doing. What are you doing? You are young, you are energetic, you have the passion. Do something for yourself first. You have to lead yourself. That's what leadership is about. That's what leadership is about. It's not about age, but about ideas. We now have this value chain, the cassava value chain before us. Let us work selflessly in turning this goal to real incomes for millions across the country and across the continent. But always know one thing, that every firm has a foundation. Every firm has a foundation. The foundation of turning challenges in the agro value chain into opportunities is about ambition and selflessness. That's where the firm starts. It's about ambition and selflessness. And as you get to work, don't bother about those ahead of you or those behind you or those beside you. Just give your best, because each and every one of us will give a personal account to our Creator. Just focus on selfless ambitions, even as we guide you selflessly. And in a continent and even across the world, as you already know, where it is very unpopular to do the right thing. As I said, when you do the right thing, they complain. When you don't do it, they complain. It is very unpopular to do the right thing. You will face discouragement as you carry out this work. You will face discouragement as you carry out this work. You will be ridiculed, you will be despised, you will even lose friends. Because they will say, how are you doing this without money? How can you just be getting into be trained to do something without money? You will be ridiculed, you will be despised. But never be despaired. Never be despaired. You are not the first person to face that. You are not the first person to face that. Neither will you be alone or be the last. But at the end of the day, you'll be vindicated. You'll be vindicated regardless of how long it takes. Even the scriptures tell us that none other than King David wondered at how it is that the arrogant and the wicked prospered. He could not understand it, and he grew weary of this very sad state of affairs. But God showed him the end, utter destruction and terror. You should therefore never be discouraged. Be encouraged, and never waste your time envying those who prosper through wickedness. Neither waste your time with those who complain about everything, with those who don't want to come forth and contribute to solutions but prefer to talk about problems. We've been talking about problems for the past 60 years in the continent, and problems have never changed or moved a needle to solve anything. Only solutions do, and those solutions are people. It is us that drive solutions. People drive and make change. And that's our rule. And we must always, as individuals, first ask the question, what am I useful for? And what can I do to make meaningful change in others' lives? Not always about yourself. Because we believe that Omoja Nguvu is the best period we can stand on. God bless you.